Hey there, cardomancers. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Not Yule, not Christmas. It's fall. Yay! So I have made a tag for all of us to participate in and for many of you to enjoy. This is the Halloween Party Decks tag. Oh my goodness. Okay. We are going to have some fun with these 13 different decks. You can play along too and let me know what your answers are down below for your favorite prompts. But before we jump into it, I want to remind you that I have a newsletter that goes out weekly with tarot tips and witchy musings. The link to that is down below, and I'm going to have really cool classes coming up this year. I'll be running my Unlocking the Cards class again, and I have a whole series of classes coming out in January. So sign up for that newsletter. Okay, let's jump into it. Question number 1, the perfect party host. This is the deck that's great for big readings. It sets up everything perfectly for you and just has that way of making you feel like really welcome and you're ready to receive. Probably no surprise here. For me, it's the Super Lunaris deck. This deck is just so easy to read. It's got gorgeous backs. I can just pull a lot of cards on this and not feel overwhelmed. I really feel like this deck is just such an easy reader for me. And I think the perfect party host is like that. They make it easy for you to come in, to feel like you fit in, to feel like, you're not overwhelmed. As me as an introvert, gosh, parties can be a little bit of a challenge. So, having a host that creates a scene that allows you to just kick back is my favorite card in the whole deck. 2 of Cups. So this deck does that for me. I can just grab it anytime and pull out a bunch of cards and feel really comfortable reading them. This is like my go-to everyday deck for when I want no fuss, no muss, and I just need an easy time of it. Prompt number 2, seasonal decor. I mean, what is a party without really good decorations? And a really good Halloween party with great decorations is so much fun to be at. So this is the deck that you love for the aesthetic, for that Halloween feel that just gets you in the mood. It's all about the aesthetic. I love the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. The drawings on this are just so nice. They really just put me in the mood. I mean, come on, look at this. One of the things that's really great about this series of decks is that I follow the Wheel of the Year, and so for me these messages are timely. And so as soon as I move into Samhain season, I'm picking up this deck. I'm loving it. I'm loving the illustrations, but I'm also enjoying the book. I feel as though Lorraine Anderson and Juliet Diaz have done such an amazing job with this deck, and they have really cool things in here as well. Like you've got on this one for Candle Magic, you've got Candle Color Correspondences. So there's kind of just little extras in here that make it fun for the season to play with. They also have reversed meanings in here, which is kind of fun. You don't always get that on Oracle decks. But this one, I mean, come on, you just can't beat this for the aesthetic for me. This just feels like this time of the year. Everything that I love about moving into the dark underworld and being a part of the Samhain season. Seasons of the Witch by Juliet Diaz, Lorraine Anderson, and the illustrations are by Giada Rose. Prompt number 3 is comfort food, because this season is all about comfort food and a good party. You come in and you get something that you just love. So this deck is the deck that satisfies. It feels good. It's just that comfort food deck that just goes and hits the spot every single time. For me, this deck is the Genius Garden Tarot by Jessie Huntenberg. I actually just got this last year, and it's just so comforting. This deck, it is so kind. It is so warm. This is like a friend that even if I don't pull it out all the time, it's like no time has passed. It just feels good. Like every time I have a reading, my whole body feels good after having a reading here. There's so much magic that Jessie put into the Genius Garden Tarot that just comes through when you're holding the cards, when you're working with the cards. It's a comfort deck. I just really appreciate the messages that are in the book. It comes from a very loving angle, not toxic positivity, but just kind, like genuinely kind. And so, like I said, every time I work with this deck, I feel like I've eaten like my favorite warm casserole. And I'm just like, yay. like the feel of candles all around you and really good food, cozied up in a blanket, watching your favorite movie. That's what this feels like. It is so comforting to me. That's the Genius Garden Tarot by Jessie Huntenberg. Number 4, bobbing for apples. Now, I don't know if many of you have bobbed for apples. This is something that I grew up with as a kid. Like, we did it all the time. I think it's a great game. But there's something about bobbing for apples. It's like sometimes you get an apple and sometimes you don't. So this is the deck that's like, hey, you pull it out and it can be hit or miss. Like when it's on, you're a winner. And when it's not, you're left empty-handed, like, whoop, nothing. This is probably going to surprise some of you. This deck right here, which is the Oak, Ash, and Thorn Tarot. Perfect for the season, right? Just absolutely lovely. Look at these backs, so gorgeous. It's just weird. I love this deck, and of course some of it's going to be upside down because I put the whole deck upside down. Look at that. It's weird because I love this deck. I love the illustrations, but sometimes I just get nothing, and I can't tell if it's because I'm just reaching for it at the wrong time and I just haven't honed in on when specifically this deck is ready to speak to me. But I mean, I'll never get rid of this deck. It's just sometimes these readings are empty. Like I just come up empty-handed where I'm like, this doesn't make sense. It's not resonating with me at all. And there are other times when I pull this deck out and it's absolutely amazing. There's no guidebook for this. And so I feel like this is not as intuitive a deck because it's animals and because I think you need to know the Rider-Waite-Smith system in order to use this deck, because it's not always emotive to me. It doesn't always evoke something within me that makes me feel like I'm getting the message. Like here's the Hermit, and I see the little hedgehog out here, the little hedgie out by himself being visited, on his walk by himself. That makes sense to me, but I also understand the Hermit. Like this just, I don't know. Anybody else have that with this deck? I'm really curious, like if you feel like this deck is hit or miss. Sometimes it's a winner and sometimes I come up empty-handed. This is the Oak, Ash, and Thorn Tarot by Three Trees Tarot. Okay, so what would a costume party be like without the costumes? So here we get into the costume decks. Number 5 is the Werewolf deck. This is the deck that brings transformation to your life. The deck I chose is Naomi Cornock's. I love that little thing there. Naomi Cornock's The Old Ways Magic Oracle, and this is the expanded pack. I actually have a whole video on this that I did. Wow, this deck is superb, truly superb. It is just, I like to look at this deck, reach for this deck when I'm in transformation or when I'm in a place where I need to transform. This deck always just takes me into the cards. I can pathwork into these cards. If you're not familiar with pathworking, that's meditating and moving into the card and exploring it. It just brings me to this place where I can look at myself in a way where my mind gets out of the way and something deep within me clicks. And in that moment, I know how to change, know what transformation needs to look like during this time in my life. These are big cards. Yeah, just takes me to that place where I know what I need to do to shift, to really shift into a new way of being, a new way of thinking, to transform into something that is going to help me move forward in life. And transformation for me is something that's very deep. And so the fact that this deck is one that kind of goes beyond words. There is so much going on in these cards. The art is absolutely amazing. And so this is my werewolf deck. This is the deck that deeply transforms me or helps me during times of transformation. That's Naomi Cornock's Old Ways Magic Oracle. Oops, before I move on, I did want to show you the book. The new version, she went ahead and she numbered the cards. And so you'll find that the number that's on the card is the number that's in here that you're going to need to look to in the book. Very simple. But again, you don't need a lot with these cards because the illustrations are going to take you there. But what she does right is just beautiful. So this one is for Elemental. At the cliffs of Tintagel, the dragons of Kurno stir. This is where we meet the dragons of earth, fire, water, and air. And then it's got 3 messages: the welcome, the warning, and the wisdom. The welcome, elemental energies flowing intuition. Warning, disconnected from the elements, lacking sensitivity. Wisdom, to dragon I ask, guide me, listen to the ancient wisdom of the old ways. So just love this, love this deck. I talk about it all the time. Number 6 is your good old-fashioned vampire costume. So this is a deck that is really draining if you do too many cards in it. Like you can only do a few cards at a time, or you just feel like, whoa, this is way too much. For me, that's the Earth, Moon, and Shadow Oracle. I always say, this is the deck you use to peel off your skin in order to get a look inside. And I mean that in the best possible way. I mean, I love it. It's by Serafina Yeshimesa, and the artwork is by Kat L. Amsel. So, look at the backs, they're really cool. This deck, it's just really powerful. I mean, it's really about shadow work. The messages are really powerful. The artwork is intense. I mean, look, here's Memory in Mind. These are Odin's crows, in case you don't know. It's so beautiful. Love the unobtrusive borders on this. I love this so much that I bought 2 copies of it. I actually have a second copy of this in my cupboard. It's wrapped up in the original tissue paper that it was sent out in. But this deck will just go very, very deep. When I first got this deck, I decided that I would do, I did one of the initial, let's see if I can find it here. I did this one, the Shadow Integration Spread Layout, and it literally took me a week to get through it because the messages on here are so intense. And the writing is beautiful. She actually has references to different things that she talks about in here, which is really nice. How often do you see an artist reference what it is that they're talking about? Like, where did you get that information from? Well, you get that on here. You get the references. They actually must have been a writer or gone to school to be a writer, because who does all their citations so nicely? So poisons and toxins. Then you've got the keywords here. Then you've got a little like blurb. This is from Pema Chodron, like a quote. And then you've got the writing. And these cards, man, I mean, look, it's 2 pages of writing. The book is sold separately. I don't even know if this is still available. I'm sorry if it's not, everyone. This deck is actually, just can't win for losing here. This deck is really a treasure for me, honestly. I feel like this was a Kickstarter, and as soon as I saw the work, it's also ethically printed. As soon as I saw the work, I knew that I had to have this. I knew that it was something that was going to speak to me, that was really going to go deep. And so I can't use this deck a lot because it is so intense, but when I do take it out, it goes deep and it takes me someplace that I really need to go, and something that I really need to look at that maybe I just haven't been able to see because it's really that deep within me. So again, this is the Earth, Moon, and Shadow deck by Serafina Yeshimesa, and the artwork is by Kat L. Amsel. Number 7 is the Ghostly Apparition deck. So this is the deck that kind of disappears from your repertoire only to kind of mystically show back up again. You have one of those decks, you're like, where is that deck? I haven't seen that deck in a long time. And then all of a sudden, like, there it is. And then it like kind of makes its way into the rotation again. To me, that is Tarot of the Abyss by Anna Touraine. This is the weirdest thing. Like, I will not be thinking about this deck, and then all of a sudden it's like it just highlights itself to me on the shelf, like, oh, and then I forget that I have this deck. Like, I love this deck. I love how it reads. I love how direct it is. It's a pretty visceral deck. You're not going to be able to lie to yourself with this deck, but it will just disappear. Look at this devil. I love this. Like, here we are. We've tethered ourselves to this, and there's the heart, like, to this thing in the earth, and we're unable to fly because of it. So this deck, I mean, it's weird. It's like, I don't see it. Like, there's some kind of glamour on it where I just don't see it on my shelf. And then all of a sudden, there it is. And it comes back into my rotation. Look at this Two of Swords. Which face will you choose? Just really good, very different. Again, very direct. It's got this book. Book has great messages in it. This is not some crappy little white book. You will find that what is in here is worth reading. And like here, the High Priestess. The High Priestess is a still and quiet figure guarding the door of both positive and negative forces. She is the sorceress who is aware of all mysteries and sees all that is hidden. She represents the subconscious and the doors within your mind that want to be opened. And it goes on from there. But the writing is really good in this. I don't know. So this is my Ghostly Apparition deck. This is Tarot of the Abyss by Anna. I'm just going to put it out. Tarot of the Abyss by Anna Touraine. Number 8 is the Zombie Costume. This is a deck that's so old and worn that it's like falling apart. And I have to tell you, I cannot find the deck that I wanted to show you, which is my Dirty Pam. It's kind of freaking me out. I don't know where it is. It means I took it somewhere to read with. It's probably somewhere in the house somewhere. But anyway, so instead I'm going to show you this deck. It's a cool, really old antique deck that was sent to me by an Instagram follower. The person who gave this to me lives in an ashram, I think, and it smells divine. This is the Grand Atiya Egyptian Gypsies Tarot. And you can see that the book is, you know, really old. It's falling apart. I don't read with this. It's a very odd representation. It's not a tarot. I don't know what it is. It's called a tarot, but it's not. And I do not have the full deck. It's missing just 2 cards. It's very odd. Very, very odd. But it's actually like they're cardboard. They're not, they're not like cardstock. So I think I was trying to figure out when this was printed, like when it was from, and 1969, printed in France. So yeah, this is a really trippy deck. Like I said, I have it. It's just one of these sort of like, this is really cool. Every once in a while I take it out and look at it, look at the cards, maybe read up on some of the bizarre interpretations. And they are bizarre. And I think it's because maybe it's being translated from French too, that it's a little bit awkward. But anyway, this is it. The Grand Atiya Egyptian Gypsies Tarot by B.R. Grimaud, from made in France. So they may even make a reproduction of this nowadays. Number 9 is your best witchy deck. Why do you love it, and what makes it the perfect witch deck for you? This deck is actually newer to me. It's the Circle of Doors Tarot. It's by Anne Staverly and Jill Sutherland, and the guidebook is written by Brian Duffy. It's a collage deck of photography that these 2 women have made. great box. Love this box. Love the gilding on it. I actually like the borders. The backs are really cool. So this deck is on my daily draw altar, like the place where I journal. And I've been using it for, I don't know, maybe a month solid, honestly. It is so dang witchy. I mean, the feel of it is witchy. The messages are like Priestess of Avalon, Ancient Priestess, Goddess driven, Witch in the Woods, Wise Woman. Like, the messages are amazing. You get this piece of poetry. You get the name of the card. So the Maga of Keys, which is the Magas are the queens, which is the rebel. And then you get this description about the card. And then you have these questions that are given to you. The questions are so good. Like, you've met that witch in the woods and she gives you that question that sends you on the quest. Like, yeah, totally. And then you get this affirmation down below. The writing on this is so incredibly lovely. So here we have in the Maga of Keys, it says, "The flame never died. It was always smoldering deep within. She calls us to gather tinder and kindling, dust off the old tales and sweet dreams. Together we ignite the song of the revolution." Anyway, just absolutely amazing. And then, like, the affirmation here, my creativity is like the forest. It feeds and renews itself. I am most powerful when I am most prolific. I never lose track of my really good ideas. It is never too late for me to start. Anyway, it's fabulous. It's really like, what's going on here? What's happening in this card? Like, you look at them because they're layered images. There's so much going on in here. They really ignite your subconscious. It just bring you to this place of like, wow. I mean, like, this is super priestess power. Like, parting the mists type witch. Not the funky witch that we see on postcards, like the real witch. The witch that looks into your soul and gives you the quest that takes you into becoming who you really are, and does with a little cackle as you walk away. So this is my witchy deck, my best witchy costume. Circle of Doors Tarot by Anne Staverly and Jill Sutherland. Guidebook by Brian Duffy. And this is the rose petal finish, which is just like luscious too. Next up is the Blood and Guts deck. So whenever you go to a party, there's always somebody that's like, you know, made it look like they have an axe in their head, or maybe like a gash down their cheek, something. So this is that deck that kind of like rips your guts out. Like, use at your own peril. Like, make sure that you really want to know, because this deck is going to go and just like straight to the heart. Nobody gets me quite like MJ Cullinan does. This is the For Hexa Tarot. Beautiful backs. Of course, it's got an amazing guidebook. There's the backs again. I love them. This deck, man, you know, first of all, the world of Fae. The Fae just live by a different set of rules. It's just like trees live in a different reality than we do. When we communicate with plants, they communicate in very different ways. Animals live from a very different reality. And so this is just so otherworldly, and it doesn't care about my feelings. It really doesn't. It's not into coddling me. It's into, like, look at this one here. This is the Three of Air, which is the Three of Swords. And she's just like left bloody, like she's holding the knife, and nobody cares, you know? Like, they're holding her wings that she cut off. That's it. So this deck like I said, I honestly don't break this deck out very often because I know that I'm going to get an answer that's going to call me on my crap. So sometimes I need that. Sometimes I know like I'm in a situation with someone and I can't seem to find my way out. This is going to give me that view. And of course, look at this one. I love this. The 8 of Air, 8 of Swords, and tied up by the spider webs. 9 of Air, sitting there. There's like, is that blood coming out? Who knows? Just being stuck. There's the Death card. Of course, MJ's writing is impeccable, and it's no muss, no fuss. It's straight to the point, and that's exactly what this deck will do. It will cut straight to the point and tell you the truth. So use at your own peril. This is the 4 Hexa Tarot by MJ Cullinan. Prompt number 11 is the couple's costume. You know, when you go to a party and there's that couple, they've dressed up as something that goes well together. Like it's just, they're just so cute. They decided to do it. So this is the perfect pair like that you have in your collection. And for this, I have chosen Tarot of the Witch's Garden by Sasha Graham and The Mists of Avalon Oracle by Rose and Sarah. The reason is this time of the year, I like to make that descent into the deep. This is Samhain season. It's just a time for me of going deeper and allowing myself to look within to the messages that really need to be looked at. Like when it's sunny out, I just don't feel privy to doing that type of work as much, even though I'm just that type of person. But these two decks go together, Oracle and Tarot. First of all, I like how congruent the imagery styles are. The illustration styles are very similar, and so I feel like they just match each other really well. And I love the images. Like these are both so Avalonian, and I'm such an Avalonian buff. You know, the Welsh mythology, this whole coming together and enjoying the mists of the Mabinogion and just that whole realm of the Green Isles over there and what they represent in my own spirituality. So for me, this feels very homey. One of the things I really like about this deck, and I didn't know this until maybe a year ago, one of you told me this trick, is that with the Mists of Avalon Oracle, you have these words on each side. And so a lot of times I can draw a card on something that I'm working on. And then I can look at this word and I can draw a card, a tarot card, to kind of flesh that out and put it next to that word. And then I'll interpret it like as a jumping off point from here through this lens. And then this is my answer to that. So I really like the way these work together in that way. I also feel like these just really have a depth to them, like the types of themes, thematic elements that move through both of these weave together perfectly, which makes them a great pair. The Mists of Avalon book does have a little book that goes with it. I mean, the Mists of Avalon deck has a book that goes with it. And you'll see on here you have the words at the top that are on the card, and then the card itself. Then you have like a little saying here, like a little quote. Then you have the message of that card, and then it goes on to kind of speak to you. So I feel like this is just very powerful. It does have an affirmation at the end. I know some of you don't like affirmations. I personally do, but I take it or leave it. Like maybe I feel like it fits, maybe I don't feel like it fits. And then of course this is a Llewellyn deck. And so it has this big chunky book. As you know, with Llewellyn decks, you get a full color on that page over there. You do have the upright and reversed meanings on here, which is really cool. For those of you who are trying to learn that, you have like a little question at the end, something to kind of ponder on each one of these. I like Sasha Graham's take on the cards themselves, and I find it fascinating that both of them have this gold, it's kind of a gold background that makes them really look like they match. And you know, this is by Rockpool and this is by Llewellyn, and yet you have these congruent styles that go together. It just makes this the perfect pair for this season. And I find that it's gentle, It's mystical, it's playful at times, and yet it has that depth that I'm really looking for during the Samhain season. What's your favorite Samhain deck? Last up on the list, every costume party has one or maybe more. That person that did not show up in costume, the no frills deck. You know, it's okay. We love those people. They show up just as they are, and we're happy to have them at the party. My no frills deck, and I only have a few of them because I like frills, is the Transient Light Tarot by Ari Weisner. Weisner? Somebody help me out here. Okay, so this is a minimalist deck, and it's kind of interesting. It's sort of like it's got pips with feels. So, you know, sometimes I just want a deck that I don't have to think very hard on, that's just really, really simple. This feels very zen-ish in a way that, like, it shows up and I look at the pictures and they sort of clear my mind and I get a very simple answer. Usually I just intuit a few words, not even a lot. And that can be really powerful if used at the correct time. You know, we all need friends like that. We need friends that are no muss, no fuss. We might not hang out with them that much unless we're really quiet people, I suppose. I tend to be someone who likes to process things. So the friends that are like this, I'm very careful about when I go to them, because that's it. That's what you get. You're not going to get much more than this. You're not going to get a lot of frills. You're not going to get a lot of super depth, although it would be unfair to say that there's no depth to this deck, because there is. All of the major arcana have this beautiful poetry at the beginning, and I really appreciate that about it. And it's got a really strong message. It's just this little bit on each one, but it's a very direct and powerful message. The minor arcana, you do not get the poetry on it, but you do get a really good message. And again, I find that the images on this are just easy, really, really easy to enjoy and get a message from. And again, very direct. They speak very directly and very simply. And I know that this style is not for everyone. So thanks for being here, everybody. I'm wondering what your favorite decks are. I hope some of you played along and put your answers down below. If you made it this far, then see if you can find like a playing card or a card of some kind, or maybe a book emoji to put down below to let me know that you made it to the end. And may you find the perfect Halloween party and the perfect costume to dress up in yourself.